for having us tonight. We're really happy to be here. And thanks to Natalie and Kim and VoxGeek for getting us over here. It's actually our first time in Ireland, and yeah, so far we're enjoying it. So we just want to share with you tonight some of our experience about organizing events abroad. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, really. Let's get started. So just a quick intro about who we are. So we are sharing the same last name, which is not a coincidence, we're actually married. And we have a new family and team member on the way to arrive spring. I'm German, first was French, and in the past 10 years we've lived in Italy and London, and now we live in the south of France, so we've come around a little bit. I have a bachelor in communication management, but I'm actually a practice and trained and practicing graphic designer. And since 2015, I'm running this conference called DevSecCon with Francois. And yeah, so the talk is not about our conference as such, but how we organize the conference abroad and what's involved. What's that?
For my part, I'm actually not a conference organiser by trade. I've been working the past 20 years in IT security. I just had an idea and I just turned to my wife and said, draw me a sheet, basically. And that's how we started. So just a few words about the event. So the event is solely about DevSecOps, which is a methodology to implement security inside development operation. It started because as a contractor I can train 10 people, 20 people, and that's really tedious, trust me, anybody being a contractor. So the end was really, I'm just going to get 400 people in the room at the same time and actually teach them about DevSecOps and let them teach me about DevSecOps. So the crowd is really, we've got people from all around the world, and the aim really is always to provide a good atmosphere. So yes, there are some drinks, but also some non-alcoholic drinks, so don't worry, it's not only about this. It's really about being different. So I don't know if you've been to other events, we've done the RSS security, the InfoSec, the big trade shows, the Black Hat. It's not providing any information valuable to anybody. It's basically making sure that, I've got to be careful here, that vendors are vending their product, not fulfilling really the need of the people when they actually attend the conference. So DevSecCon is really the way of me getting training for free. Somehow there's lots of work, and about our 20 to 30 speakers are teaching me some new things. Speaking of applications.
Yeah. Just to add to that, so our conferences have about 150 to 300 attendees, so they're not massive. We have been, so as we said before, in London since 2015, and since then we've added another location pretty much every year. So we've been to Singapore since 2016, Boston in 2017, and this year also in Tel Aviv. And we're looking into going to Melbourne and Seattle in 2019. And we also take part in some other events like the Open Security Summit, which I will tell you a little bit about later. It's also quite interesting. Maybe a quick show of hands. Which of you have organized events outside of Ireland? Just assuming that you all organize events. Okay, about half. And who of you have organized events outside of Europe? 2? Okay, cool. So some of the things we're saying might be a little bit familiar to the two of you. There might be some new things. Just a little warning up front. Just being aware that everything that we say obviously relates to our events, and knowing that every event is unique. Don't take our word for everything. Especially things about taxes and visas. It's always best if you do your own research and don't trust everything we say. So the first point is not going to come too much as a surprise. Planning ahead is really important when you organize an event abroad, because you simply have those longer lead times for everything, longer planning times. You've got a few more things that you need to consider. So you need to source all your items abroad, obviously, if you can, and you need to find some new suppliers abroad. If what you can't find, if you need really special things, you need to ship them, and that takes time as well. Also, there might be a time difference to be considered. So there might be a 6-hour time difference, and days just get lost waiting for emails from other people. And yeah, of course, you might want to take a trip to that new event location to familiarize yourself with the venue and with the city. And yeah, obviously, you need to take time to plan for that. And what was the last point? Yes, the particularities of that country or city are really important to look into. Francois is going to tell us a little bit about it later. And I think the key decisions that you need to make is obviously choosing the best location for your event. And the good starting point there is just speak to your communities, speak to your attendees if you already held events in your home country, and they might have some advice for you where they think your event might be in demand already. Also your sponsors might have a good idea of where your event might be appreciated. So we had actually two cases where our events, we took them abroad because we had sponsors that were interested. So that's Boston and Tel Aviv in our case. So the sponsors offered us the platinum sponsorship if we bring the conferences over there, and that's obviously a really good financial starting point to have good security to get started with. Then you should be, like for any event, just estimate your numbers, how many speakers, how many attendees are you going to have. Keep those numbers in mind for when you're organizing. Book your flights, book your accommodation, get your visas. You don't want to leave that till too late. If you have some flexibility, what's nice to do is arrive a little bit earlier. So we like to do that for the Singapore conference. We actually spent this year months in Bangkok before the conference. And Bangkok is really close to Singapore, but has a much cheaper cost of living. So yeah, it's just a really nice place to spend time with, and that has the added bonus that you're working in the same time zone. So that's really good when you have to communicate with your sponsors and with your suppliers. And lastly, but not the last point on that slide, but still a really important one, do consider the local bank holidays. We've had some surprises there. So, for example, Chinese New Year, I think we've all heard of it, but I think in Europe you don't get the full impact of that event. So in all Asian countries, that's pretty much like Christmas season in Europe. And Chinese New Year was 2 weeks before our conference in Singapore this year, and we were not really aware of the full impact. So everybody is off for a week, all your attendees, all your suppliers will be gone and not available. So we had a pretty big slump in ticket sales when we should have sold the most tickets, and obviously last minute rush of getting everything ready. So that's some stress we could have done without, but the ticket sales still picked up afterwards and everything was fine in the end, but still, we could have considered it a bit better. And then the last point, that's actually quite an interesting one. You can actually make your journey part of the event. So what I mean by that is we bought at the beginning of this year this T3 camping van from the year 1981. And coincidentally at the same time there was a new event starting, the Open Security Summit, which is happening again next year in June. And so we were already living in France at that time, and we decided that we were just gonna kind of make it our must-go for the event. So we drove out from France to the UK, where this is taking place, in Woburn Forest Centre Parks. And
we actually met Richard and Natalie in London with the van. The eye is just.
It's a very cool van.
Yeah, so we had a really good time driving up there. It's a really slow car, so it took, I think, 3 days to get up there all in all. But we shared lots of pictures on the way, and we just made a little story out of it. And when we were there, we used it to do interviews with the attendees in the van, and we delivered all the drinks to the attendees in the evening. And it was just a really good, fun, and kind of different way of doing things.
So that's a funny one. Money. It all requires money. So one of the ideal solution that would be we win the lottery and we actually keep running DevSecCon for free. that would be amazing. Yeah, might revisit this idea when we do lottery. But you need some money, so you're going to think about where you put your business. So, for example, we've got a company which is based in the UK. Due to political reasons, we might have to move it at one point, but that's a side conversation. But if you think about Singapore, you think about Tel Aviv, you think about Boston, you think about every country. We've got one now in Moscow, which we are doing. So, do you open a local business, or do you just use the business? How do you do from a tax point of view? So, a little clue, and we don't take advantage of it, but opening a company in Singapore, for example, you don't pay any taxes on the first $200,000 of profit every year. So if you're actually quite clever, you can just not pay any taxes on it. But you've got always some countries, for example, Singapore, really insisted for us to actually have this local entity. So that's added cost of an accountant, added cost of dealing with all your VAT, your GST, when do you charge, when do you don't charge, and also the administrative complication of having an accountant in Ireland, one in England, one in Singapore, and nobody wants to talk to each other because they're trying to preserve their own business. It's complicated. So it's really, I would recommend, depending on the countries where the tax are not so heavy, to open a subsidiary over there. But that's up to you. I'm not recommending any kind of tax evasion. But it's always good. It's a way to actually compartmentalize the risk associated with your event. So if you incur some big loss somewhere or some big profit somewhere, you can actually move the money accordingly. That sounds a bit like a weird conversation to have in the back of Ireland. But sure, that's the manager to come back. So it's really about, you need to do your homework and don't rely on just our hearsay or what our experience is. Always completely different. Again, for the VAT, so what do you do for the VAT? We're a company in the UK which registered VAT. If somebody pays for something from Europe, do we need to charge them VAT if they're accompanied or not, etc., etc. I know more about VAT than I should actually know in my whole life. This is just kind of depressing, but it's important to know. It's the first year we actually made a big mistake. I forgot to charge VAT to my sponsors, meaning that HMRC came to see me 6 months later and said, hey, I want 20% of that. They said, oh, well, that's okay. Goodbye profit. Let's do another one. So that's money. You have to do your research. Be careful. It might go and bite you in the neck at one point. Then you've got about finding local partners. And the subtype line here is choose well, because we've had some good experience, we've had some bad experience. It's all really about making your research and making sure you don't engage yourself with some people unless you actually know exactly what they want to do, how they can help you, and what are going to be the benefit. Local communities, meetups like this one, that will actually help you to actually continue promoting your event, promoting what you're trying to do. It's the quirk that we've got in our event. It's not about, we didn't create this event to make money, we created this event to teach people something. That was for the greater good, so a bit like Santa Claus in a way. But and use some local people, really, just like people which are based in the market. So if you look at Tel Aviv, Singapore, the US, we need some people which are local to actually help us visit venue, do some talks with some sponsors, gather all this information. We can't be all around the world at the same time. That's one of the big problems. And you end up with some fantastic teams. So that was our teams in 2016 in Singapore. They were really good. So that was taken at 11 o'clock at night. And we'll explain for that why later. Yeah, still at short hair. And it was great. It's really the people which are going to help you make this event a good thing or a failure. Another example that was, so this is Mihai from SNCC company in Tel Aviv. I know the co-founders really well, and she was really, she was our savior. So she's English, but she also speaks Hebrew perfectly, and she was local in Tel Aviv. So she helped us with all the translation. I remember overhearing some conversation. Lisa was on a conference call, and there were like 3-4 people, and speaking speaking Hebrew, English, and basically the person that was the venue manager only speak Hebrew. So we needed to have a translator for Lisa to actually be able to actually have those conversations. It's things that you don't anticipate. It's everybody was telling us, don't worry, everybody speaks English in Israel. So, oh, okay, that's good. And now that was a bit harder. But it's good people like this that will help you to just not make an event. And those people, as Lisa was saying, we struck an agreement with them and said, like, look, you help us locally, we give you a platinum sponsor for less price, etc., etc. That there's always ways to skin a cat. And get some volunteers, get some local volunteers. So you've got plenty of companies, I'm not going to tell the names, which are trying to actually sell you some volunteers. So they will go to university and say, hey, do you want to volunteer? And they actually resell it to you, back to you for about $300 to $400. A bit of a weird concept, where it's just like, look, we're actually giving the volunteers the opportunity to attend to every talk, every workshop, do anything that you will do as an attendee part of the conference. But you will help us in the morning, you will help us to direct people, or you can be sitting in a room in the midst of 400 people, you just hold the sign she's going to be telling the speakers, 5 minute time's up, or just go around killing time. It's some things that we can't do. So the first year we've done it, the two of us, I was actually wearing some leather shoes this first year, and I could not move at the end, because I had to do the speaker introduction, I had to take care of sponsors, etc., etc. So volunteers are just people you really want to just work with, and they will come back every year. We had people this year from London that travel from Ukraine to actually just come and be a volunteer. And we can't always pay the expenses. There's always a bit of, we try to help them, we just not give something. But what we're giving really is the price of the ticket of the conference and the ability to be part of the community.
Yeah, and just to throw in something, so those two guys, they were actually really essential for the Singapore conference, because I could not have found all those Asian names on the guest list without them. I would have been absolutely lost. So yes, locals are wonderful.
And take them to dinner. So that was the No Name restaurant in Boston, where we just had like piles and crabs and lobster and everything. Really good restaurant. If you go there, I'll give you the address. And there was volunteers, there was friends, there was at the end, we just said, look, let's all go to a restaurant, let's have fun together. And they came back, every year they're coming back. So, can I point? Yes. So Stephen here, traveled from Chicago. Kieran travelled from Ireland, actually. We travelled from somewhere around the world. Katie travelled from Bristol. There's just people from all around the world. If you create this community, people will come. That's the good thing.
Number 4, the venue. I think we all agree that it's a really important part of an event. I just need that. Wrong direction. Yeah, again, a really good starting point of how do you find a good venue in a country that is potentially really new to you. Speak to your professional network, speak to your sponsors, speak to your attendees. A lot of times they already have lots of good recommendations, and they tell you, I've been at another event there and that is the perfect venue for you. So that's always a good place to start out with. In London, we always like to use a venue that is called CodeNode, and it's dedicated to tech events. It's just got great layout, perfect look and feel for us. And you can't always find venues that are dedicated to events, especially in Asian countries. That seems to be a bit more on the rarer side. So hotels are always a really safe option for events, because if you know them from Europe, they pretty much have the same standard everywhere else in the world. So that's a very safe option. And you can also work with convention bureaus. So I don't know if you've heard about them before. They are government tourist organizations, and they are based in pretty much all the major cities around the world, and they are just there to get people to have their events in their city. So they will know everything about the local venues, the local hotels, and all the different options you've got, and they'll be able to lead you a little bit and help you to make all the connections you need. We've got actually a resources slide at the end. If you want to find out more about that, there's a link on there. I assume we'll be sharing the presentation. Yes, we will. Good. Then yes, do try and visit the venue before your event, because you can do as much research online as you want and get a super detailed briefing from the event manager, but it's never going to be the same as being there and looking at all the things that could be potential pitfalls or potential opportunities. So again, it comes back to when you have a partner in that city, you can just send this person there. So that would be the perfect ideal case. If you can't do that, which a lot of time happened to us, and you don't want to travel there yourself because it obviously takes time and money, you can just be a little bit creative. So for example, at DevSecCon Boston, we were holding it at the Boston Public Library, which is really beautiful building. I think it's the oldest library in the country, lots of character. And we actually sent a friend over there who lives in Boston to check out the venue for us. So he got a guided tour from the venue manager, and he just took a really extensive video of the whole tour with his phone and shared it with us afterwards, and that was just perfect. So you can see all the spaces and how they work together and what you can do with it. So you can do it that way around, or perhaps have a really nice venue manager who just does directly for you a video call and shows you around. Maybe if they're nice enough, they'll do that for you. And yes, always ask for some detailed plans, because you can't just pop over there. Unfortunately, it's not like holding an event in Dublin. You need as much information as you can that you can just hold on to and refer to during a whole organization process. And yeah, don't forget to look at the surrounding areas as well. The Boston Public Library, as nice as it was, it's giving free access to homeless people, and there was a lot of homeless people around the building, which they didn't interfere at all with our conference, so no problem there. But I know that there was a handful of people that didn't feel great about that kind of surrounding. So yeah, it's definitely something to look into. And then that one's quite important, I find, doing things locally if you can. So I mean by that, trying to source